You're going to be using AI in the workplace. So that is a skill you really should be honing and learning, along with the other skills that you're learning in school to prepare for your future careers. Let's take a look at some things to keep in mind as you explore the AI tools that you have available to you, how to use them correctly and leverage them to do your best in classes and on tests. Look at AI as if it were your personal assistant, okay? And like any personal or professional assistant, it's important to know how to give good, clear instructions. And for AI, that means good quality prompting skills. Then you need to be able to review the output that the AI gives you, evaluate it to make sure that it meets your needs and that it fulfills all of your requirements. And then you're going to make your own adjustments accordingly. Never ever just copy and paste something that the AI generates without making adjustments or changes to it yourself. It should reflect your voice, and it almost never matches the exact requirements that a teacher is giving you for an assignment. In order to do these things, you need to have some knowledge yourself anyway. So it's important that you look at assignment instructions, that you look at your textbook, that you take notes in class, so that when the AI helps you get started on that paper, you can review your notes and look at the assignment requirements and make those updates and do it well, do it correct. And before you get too dependent on AI as a tool, remember that in school anyway, assignments are usually there to prepare you for tests, help you reinforce your skills that you learned about in class or read about in the book. And if you let AI just do everything, you are not honing your skills or getting that practice. So you're not going to do well on those tests. And in the workplace, you are going to be in situations where you're working live with a team in a shared document, and you aren't always going to be able to pass off AI generated work as your own. So it's important that we use it well, but that we still gain skills and knowledge ourselves to move forward. So let's take a look at some examples. So let's take a look at one of the assignments from Business Communications. This assignment is for positive and informative writing. The chapter covers giving instructions, asking questions, responding to questions, just general, normal, routine messages. Before this chapter, though, there are chapters that discuss basic professional writing, things like you attitude and really focusing on the reader of your message or the audience to your presentation and evaluating what their needs are, what their interests are. So there's a lot of information covered in the book that you're going to be expected to know when you evaluate a message or when you write a new message. So let's take a look at this very first assignment here, document for analysis. The instructions tell me to analyze the message and list its weaknesses. And then it asks, we are going to revise the message. So what I did here was copy and paste this email message into two different AI tools to see what they generated. So first, I asked ChatGPT and Claude to analyze the message and list its weaknesses. Okay, so starting with that, let's take a look at what ChatGPT generated. Now, these are the weaknesses that ChatGPT came up with. Okay, so while reading through this, and you can pause to read, I'm going to scroll down a little bit more. Pause to read. Okay, so now you've had the opportunity to see all of the 9 recommendations that ChatGPT presented. Now let's take a look at what Claude gave me. Right, here are Claude's recommendations. Pause to read. And then there's the rest of it. You can pause to read. Okay, so now that you've had a chance to read those weaknesses that both of these two AI tools generated, you're probably thinking that is spot on. That's exactly what I would turn in for this assignment. But while those might be good in general, Claude and Chat do not really have access to the textbook that you are being assigned to reference in order to list the weaknesses. Also, they do not have access to any videos. Okay, so even in an online class where your instructor records videos and you don't have class discussions in order to pull from, the AI tools don't have access to either of those things. They don't know what it is you're supposed to be referencing. So I'm going to use this button to go back to the table of contents. And you can see that this chapter starts out with general writing process information, how to analyze your audience. So those things would need to be addressed. For this one, it's a request for information. So let's just jump right into that specific subsection. Okay, so clear recommendation here. The first sentence of an informative request is usually, or information request, is usually a polite command. It should not be an explanation or justification unless you expect resistance to the request. When the information or access requested is likely to be forthcoming, which means they're not going to have a problem to actually do this for you, immediately tell the reader what you want. Is that what the assignment, the sample document did? Yes or no? If not, this is one of the weaknesses that you should be listing on your analysis of the document. Okay. So there are also other guides here. If you have several questions, you've got a couple of choices. You can ask the most important question first. You can put things in bulleted lists. There are ways to address questions. Did the document do that? Now, the responses from the two AI tools, which you can rewind and go back and look at them yourself, they might allude to some of these things, but no, it's not specific. And so I'm going to know that you didn't really analyze the document yourself and you didn't refer back to the chapter, because that is the whole point of asking you to review a document and list its weaknesses. It's also why for assignments where you're generating writing yourself and you don't have a document that you're revising, you typically are asked to do audience analysis. Who is your audience? What are their needs? What strategy are you going to use? What's your main point? What other things does your audience need to know? Those kinds of things. And so I'm going to be asking specific questions, and the expectation is that you're going back into your book and looking at what the guidance from the book says you should do. And that's how you do your own analysis before you start writing your own document. Okay? So remember also, it's not just these items here in this one subsection. There's guidance earlier on in this whole section 8.1 that talks about basic things to keep in mind when you're writing to people. You can pull from that too to list the weaknesses of the document. So let's go and take a look at how these two different AI tools revised that document. Okay, so here is what ChatGPT did with revising that document. So I'm going to scroll down, pause if you need to read this. I'm going to scroll down a little bit. Okay, so that's what ChatGPT gave me. So pause if you need to read that. I'm going to go on over to Claude. Here's what Claude did with it, aside from the error messages from my browser here. Revised version. Okay, scrolling down. Pause to read if you need. All right, so you can see that both of the tools took different approaches. For this one, used numbered bullets instead of standard dot bullets. Why did they make that choice? What does the textbook say about when you use numbered bullets and when you use standard bullets? Did they follow the guidelines in the book on how to format a message like this with regards to what kind of information comes first and how do you actually close a message like this? Does it follow what your book says you should be doing for this type of message? Okay, this one is really simple and straightforward, so it's probably really close. Both of these tools did a fairly good job of revising this message, but you should go in and take a look at it and see if all of the information is correct. Did it leave out something that's important that should be in there? Did it order things the way the chapter asked you to order things for this type of message? Remember that little snip that I read before? If you think that they're going to do what you ask, quickly and easily, then you don't really have to do much of a sales pitch. You can ask right up front using a direct format for the request. If you think that either they're really busy or they might be resistant for some reason to do what you ask them to do, then you're going to probably use some kind of persuasive strategy to get them to do what it is that you need them to do. Okay, same thing for all of the writing assignments in this particular course. The textbook has certain prescribed ways of addressing difficult situations, negative situations, sales and other persuasive message situations. Always take a look at the book and evaluate what the AI tool is giving you so that you can update it both for your own voice as well as for the content that the chapter wants you to cover. Okay?